Jumping in on Manx Radio
with Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we are yet again on another Friday. It is the best in modern contemporary jazz, jumping in with Chris and myself, H, and a look back at the work, the late, now great, always great now late, fantastic Sonny Rollins.
Yes, welcome along to this week's show, and another sad departure, as H says, to the jazz world, a veritable colossus. But Sonny Rollins, who passed away at the age of 95, thankfully left a substantial recorded legacy, and hopefully our selection will give you at least a glimpse of his genius. So, H, another great departs. Where to start, I suppose, was the question. With so many revered albums, what caught your ear and is perhaps an important jazz memory for you?
Both, and both correct as well. Where do you start? Anyway, keep it short. I'm going to head way out west. I'm going to have a bit of a rundown in Broadway, and we'll head to Village Vanguard.
And for me, well, something well-balanced, something environmentally aware, and something colourfully Caribbean. But to start, a theme from a soundtrack of a film which brought Michael Caine to great prominence and went on to be nominated for 5 Oscars. The story of a cheeky Cockney layabout with an eye for the birds. No, not the feathered variety, although the actual soundtrack, it isn't. Here's Sonny Rollins with Alfie's theme. Alfie's theme written for the soundtrack of the film Alfie in 1966. As I alluded before, though, it wasn't actually in the film's soundtrack. That itself was recorded at Twickenham Film Studios, featuring Sonny with some of Britain's finest: Keith Christie on trombone, Tubby Hayes and Ronnie Scott also on tenor sax, Stan Tracy on the piano, Dave Goldberg on guitar and Phil Seaman on the drums. However, as was often the way at the time, the album wasn't recorded until some 3 months later at Rudy van der Gelder's home studio in New Jersey, and it featured a totally different lineup. So it had, who did it have? It had Phil Woods, it had Rollins and Bob Ashton on tenor, along with Phil Woods on alto, Danny Black on baritone, J.J. Thompson on trombone, James Cleveland and Walter Booker on bass, and Freddie Dunlop on the drums, with pianist Roger Kellaway and the great Kenny Burrell on guitar. Sadly, no copies of the original film version are available, but this one still has been one of my favourites.
Cracking stuff, and what a player. We were certainly, I think I saw him on a couple of occasions over the years in later life. I'd love to have seen him in his early years, and that, like a lot of players, I think, to my ears, he became softer as he grew older. So you listen to some of the earlier things when he was doing his playing in his favoured trio format. A great fan of the trio format, and some of them are really hard and, real risk-taking stuff. And as is the case with a lot, whether it's, I don't know, John Sermon leaps to mind as well. You listen to his early work, so much more fierce than his later work, and I suppose that comes with age. I suppose perhaps you mellow a little bit in your being and perhaps in your playing as well. Still playing well, but differently. Anyway, I'm harking back to the one year. I'm going to do a bit of a twofer here. From 1957, we're going to sort of bookend the year. So from March, I think it was, of 1957, the classic Way Out West, the album, if you've ever seen it. Great picture on the front, with Sonny there with his Stetson and gun belt on and sort of slinging his saxophone like it's a rifle. Recorded in Los Angeles in March of 1957. And then later in the same year, he took a different trio into the Village Vanguard in New York to record the first volume of his Sonny Rollins, A Night at the Village Vanguard. So we'll hear I'm an Old Cowhand, and then we'll head straight into Softly as in a Morning Sunrise. Take it away, Sonny. Oh, and this is, the famous three-legged horse, no less, with Sonny Man. Great stuff, it has to be said. Sonny Rollins in his favourite trio format. He seemed to do more in trio than anything else. I could be wrong in that, but always feels like that, or maybe that's just when I like listening to him, when you just really hear his inventiveness on the sax. Way Out West, the classic 1957 album, was the first of that little duo with the track I'm an Old Cowhand. And the great thing from that, if you read the liner notes, they were all gigging, really busy gigging musicians in around Los Angeles in the 1950s. Both Sonny and Ray Brown, they had day gigs and they were playing in clubs, Shelly Man as well. So the session was called for 3 a.m. for a starting time, and they played for about 4 hours to sort of 7 a.m. And then Sonny said, yeah, I'm just getting hot now. And Shelley sort of said, yeah, I really want to play. And they should have all been exhausted, but they sort of cut it in about 4 or 5 hours in the wee small hours in the morning, then went back to work, as it were. Correct. They were made of sterner stuff in those days, it has to be said. And it's worth buying almost just for the fantastic picture by Alfred Lion, I think it is, on the front as well. And then followed with the first CD I ever bought. Ooh. Sonny Rollins, A Night at the Village Vanguard, Volume 1, which obviously comprises as Volume 2, which there is. And Sonny again in trio format, this time with either Wilbur Ware on bass and Elvin Jones drums, or Donald Bailey bass and Pete LaRocca on drums. And I think in that particular case we heard Elvin on drums and Wilbur Ware on that one, and that was from November of 1957. Like I said, just when the CD format was coming out, it came in a big long box and a presentation pack, and I thought I'll give this new format a try. We were buying everything on vinyl at the time, and yeah, there it is. Great cool picture of him on the front as well.
Yeah, I think it's a volume 3 as well, but well, back at the start of the 50s, Sonny had a bit of a shaky time when he was arrested for armed robbery. Released 10 months later on parole, only to be arrested again 2 years later rather, for heroin use, which blighted, as we know, so many jazz giants at the time. But he went on to conquer his addiction in the mid-50s and produced those fantastic albums. Despite all of this, he really had quite a career going for himself, with some of his best-regarded albums in that period, working among others with Bud Powell, Miles Davis, Monk, Bird, Horace Silver, Red Garland, a veritable who's who of stars, before dropping off the radar completely in 1959 for 2 years. Where was he? Well, up among the girders of Williamsburg Bridge. As Sonny said, I was so close to the sky, it was spiritual. Here's the bridge. The title track from Sonny Rollins' seminal 1962 return album, The Bridge, with Jim Hall on guitar, Bob Cranshaw on bass, and Ben Riley at the drums. Every day for the previous 2 years, Sonny would climb the steep iron steps to the virtually unused pedestrian section of the bridge, with traffic hammering above and the toots and whistles of the boats below. As he said, what made me withdraw to the bridge was how I felt about my own playing. I knew I was dissatisfied. He'd been getting a lot of attention and was already very successful, but as he said, I wasn't satisfying my own requirements for what I wanted to do musically, and one of his neighbours was an expectant mother, so he said there was an immediate reason too. It was difficult to practice a loud horn on my tenor sax without disturbing other people in the apartment. So, spending up to 15 hours a day up there in all weathers, come rain or shine. When asked by a journalist how he dealt with toilet breaks, he said, of course, sometimes I'd have to go to the bathroom. I'd go down to a bar I liked and might have a cognac and then go right back up. If it was cold, I'd play with gloves on. It wasn't a problem. Rollins understood that liberating potential of focused, relentless hard work, away from gigging and hanging out, but he'd always enjoyed practicing. And he said he also knew how fresh and different the new release from Coleman and Ornette and Miles were sounding in 1959, the years when these three all made groundbreaking albums, Giant Steps, The Shape of Jazz to Come, and of course, Kind of Blue. And he felt he had to provide answers of his own. Although it wasn't that highly regarded upon its release, sounding different to his early work, it subsequently went on to be counted amongst essential releases and was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2015.
Going to 1966 now, and Rudy Van Gelder's studio for our next in our Sonny Rollins tribute, and that's what it is today on Jumping In. It's looking back at just a little snippet of some of the great sounds and some of our favourites of Sonny Rollins, the great tenor sax player who died just a week or so back at 93, I think it was
95.
95. Not a bad age.
No,
Hadn't been playing for a few years, I must admit, because of health. And the last time I saw him, he said, I'm running out of puff. And it's a very physical instrument to play, and he played it very physically, and that muscular sound that so many people loved.
2012, I think it was, at the Barbican.
Yeah, and it just inspired so many people, didn't it? Here he is in any case on another favourite of mine, East Broadway Rundown from 1966 with, in essence, half of the John Coltrane Quartet, Jimmy Garrison bass again, Elvin Jones at the drums, and Sonny on tenor sax, of course. Blessing in Disguise. And that was, I think, the only meeting ever between Sonny Rollins and, as you just heard there, the solo from Ornette Coleman from his Roadshows Volume 2 album, which he bought a whole load of, about 5 volumes of his roadshows in latter years when he wasn't playing as much, and he sort of hand-curated these recordings of his shows over the years from the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s with his wife Lucille Rollins as well, who brought them out. And this one is a cracking one. Sunny Moon for Two, a long vehicle, almost 22-minute track with Sonny on tenor, and you heard obviously Ornette there as well. And then Roy Haynes, the great Roy Haynes at the drums, Bob Cranshaw keeping everything going on the bass. Before that, in the 1960s, Blessing in Disguise in his great trio format again, and that muscular tone which Freddie Hubbard, who plays on one track on that, said came from the strength in Sonny's body. He knew how to get the right amount of air into his horn and had the strength to keep it coming and to control it, which is what he said he eventually ran out of in his late 80s, I think, ran out of puff. He had that great deep sound and could get the depth of sound all over the instrument from top to bottom. Many tenor players, when they play deep in the lower register, sound as if they're growling, but never Sonny. Yeah, amen to that. But wow, what a sound he had.
And when we last saw him, I say, at the Barbican back in 2012, at the end of the set, he jumped off the stage and lay down the floor. Everyone thought he died. But he liked to do that, and then he would play lying on his back and then gradually get up again. He did that over several years at the end of gigs. And talking about dream teams, I nearly brought along Live Under the Sky Festival in Tokyo with Alfonso Johnson, Jack DeJohnette, and Pat Metheny, of all people, recorded in '83.
Brilliant.
But next up for me is one of his later releases, Global Warming, an album theme with tracks reflecting his interest in the environment, a passion he held until his death, despite inevitable comparisons of his later work with his albums of the 50s and 60s. He was on pretty good form here and embracing the calypso. Here's the title track. Global Warming, the title track of his 1998 release, with a tenor blowing up top from Sonny, of course, joined by his nephew Clifton Anderson on trombone, Stephen Scott on piano, and Bob Cranshaw on bass, Perry Wilson at the drums. Well, that just about wraps up this Sonny Rollins special. When asked about how he felt about mortality in an interview a couple of years ago, he said, "Dying, it's funny. Everybody is afraid to die because of the unknown, but my mother died, my father died, my brother died, my sister died, my uncle died, my grandmother died. They were all great people. If they can die, then why can't I? My body's going to turn into dust, but my soul will be around forever. I think when the creative person ends, they continue in their next existence." Well, we couldn't go on without a track that celebrates perhaps one of his themes over the years, taken from the wonderful Saxophone Colossus album, recorded in 1956. Tommy Flanagan on piano, Doug Watkins on bass, and Max Roach on the drums. Here's St. Thomas.
Terrific stuff. He was a spiritual man, he was. He was, quite a mystic.
Keep blowing up there, Sonny. See you next time.
Mm-hmm.